Alright, so we're checking out a Diamond Winston right now.
I'm gonna jump in and try to shoot the...
Okay. So first thing to consider right away is that you did 2 good jumps, actually, to get to where you are right now. But if you look at your team actually does not have a Lucio. And so McCree is not going to be there yet. Moira will be semi-close with her Fade, but she's not going to be there yet. Genji, again, will be semi-close with his Dash, but not going to exactly be there yet. And Ana will not be there yet. So your main source of damage and your main source of heals are not there yet. So that's one thing to consider when you poke right away. And you get down to 263, I believe, right away. 278. I don't know where I got 63 from. 278. And you don't have your team, your full team at least, backing you up yet. So that's something very important to keep in mind. And if you had a Lucio, you wouldn't be in as much trouble. But because you don't, you've kind of put yourself in a risky situation. Luckily, everything worked out for you. You fell down. They didn't really want to punish you too bad. You did have some fast characters because you had... Oh, did you end up getting a Lucio? Yeah, you did.
Yes, come on, get a point.
Worked out okay for you then.
Oh, we got it!
Come back. Try to delay. Die on point.
I don't think she push.
Okay, yeah, there's no real reason for you to die on point here. So think about when your McCree dies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you die 8 seconds after your McCree. I mean, that means your McCree would have pretty much been respawned. Your Lucio could have speed boosted him, and you guys could go for another fight super soon. Instead, your team kind of has to wait on their main tank before pushing in now.
Go.
So definitely, I see kind of what you were thinking here, but it just wasn't the right choice. So you are super low right here, and now you don't have your bubble on cooldown either for when you jump in, and then still low, and you actually use your jump right here to go for this diva. If anything, you could have just walked up to this diva, because look how low you are right now. Like, if you were going to go, you would have wanted to walk up and stay in range of your Ana and stuff. But so now you've got 5 enemies all focused on you. Your team is kind of a little bit behind you still because, again, you jumped. They're not quite all in position and stuff yet. So when you primal, of course you're going to get melted. You're literally getting storm arrowed. You have no clue if Ana has her sleep. You do get antied. Like, there's no other way that would have ended or should have ended. Your team can't push through there without you making enough space, and you can't make enough space with how low you are and when you don't have your jump or your bubble cooldowns.
I'm going on point.
It's a problem like a lot of Winstons have. Like, they almost forget that they actually have a very vulnerable health bar. They don't have the same amount of armor as a lot of other tanks do. They don't have the mobility of like a Hammond. They don't have like the shield of an Orisa or a Ryan. And so like they do die. Winstons die all the time. And so you got to kind of remember that, and kind of remember when you're making big jumps forward and stuff, your team cannot keep up with you, so they can't support you. And even if your team is in position to support you, you're usually like jumping in the back, which might line of sight your healers or something just completely on accident. Right here, like, you know your healers are behind you. Like, you could be sitting here getting poke. You just kind of keep peeking back and forth, and you would be getting mad poke here. Instead, we're not peeking at all, so we're not charging our ult, and then we kind of drop our bubble randomly. So like, why do we drop the bubble here? It's not blocking any cooldowns or anything. It literally is just blocking a tiny bit of random damage that most of that damage wasn't even going to hit you or your allies.
Nice.
That peek that you were just doing is much better.
No, don't defend me! Careful.
What? Let's go to-
Again, kind of dropped your bubble randomly, so your team didn't have a fair shield.
No,
So
don't defend me!
you drop it here as soon as you're going in. I mean, it's already down 300. You could have waited. You know that Diva Bomb is going off. You know they're going to have at least a little bit of a harder time pushing because they have a Zarya and a Diva, and Diva's out of mech. You could have literally just probably walked back and put your bubble on top of the bomb, and your Ana and you would have lived just fine.
Trans probably. You can push it now. I think their Zen's dead. Their Zen's dead. Their Zen is dead. Go.
Hey, you have nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing for plate now.
Hey, get the point. Point, someone? Yeah, we nano blade them late, like bombing
What
this
do we
point.
have? I think safer bomb.
Top right.
Because you and your team are in a 3-stack too, like you guys do need to have like some sort of,
Oh, I know.
even if it's not the strongest, some sort of communication, because otherwise you guys put yourself at a big disadvantage because you're going to be going against 3-stacks who do have communication.
Oh shit!
Iwan. I'm point.
Ana low, no. Ana. Zara coming?
Even simple stuff like talking about like what ults your enemies have, like that Zarya, does she have grav? Do we need to avoid her? Do we need to spread out? Stuff like that can really set your 3-stack apart in this like diamond area and help you climb higher in diamond.
They make
This is a
got
bomb.
silver.
Oh, what? I just got bronze? At the end of the round, I saw silver. Yes, I think someone's like 100 more than me. I have 10 more than
I can Orisa actually. You know Orisa or how? Hello?
Hello? You say you want to go, Risa?
Okay,
You go Orisa, you
go. Yeah, you didn't say anything.
I said go! Oh, but yours, I forgot how good your hog is. Okay, maybe you switch to this. You want to go shit? You're telling me if Diva fly already, so you can just switch it out.
So look at kind of what you did here. So you obviously want to go for a pull, like all Orisas want to go for a pull, but this whole time here, you're like in position to pull, so you're actually shooting below your enemies.
Maybe you switch to this.
And it's because you were looking at where you were going to pull, but that's crazy. All these bullets are wasted because you're shooting them like down at the ground. Like the highest any of your bullets went is like Diva's feet level. And so gotta really keep that in mind. And remember that doing stuff like shooting down here is 1, not going to charge your ult, and 2, shows this Diva and shows whoever else that that's where you're looking, and is like a great reminder for them that you have this ult ability that can pull them in. So point unlocks in 5 seconds, so you want to start rotating and put your next shield on point. Look, your whole team is rotated 2 point. I'm sure they would appreciate the shield. I mean, thankfully you guys are winning, so it's not mattering. It's not going to matter as much. But I'm sure they would have appreciated being safe on the point, and you would probably appreciate being able to cap easier. And your enemies would probably not appreciate dying easier.
Back, guys, go back.
Oh no.
Back. Run the back!
So you're making the right choice kind of pulling back, because, you know, Orisa does want some of that space versus Orion, but I don't know why you didn't throw a shield that entire time. It would have been off cooldown and you could have helped your allies run away.
Far left. Zara?
Oh my gosh.
That's one.
Through the shield.
I got my ult.
We have nano blade.
Zara one.
Did we win that? Oh, we won.
You won, so.
Good.
Should be asking, they know me.
We nano blade next fight, guys.
Here.
Hey, come back, back, guys. Back.
You're just getting the ring hut.
Don't die here.
I got my hook. Head up. Why so slow? Oh, you're pushing.
Come back.
Come, point.
Nano blade when they
See
engage,
bottom.
okay?
Oh my god. I got that hook.
Ana's down. Oh no. Shit.
It's kind of crazy that you didn't see that, but it's because you were tunnel visioning, focused on your pull. So you're just trying to go for this pull still, shooting down there, and you essentially just ignore the fact that Reinhardt starts charging here. Stopping that Reinhardt's charge would have been huge. He doesn't build ult, you don't take damage.
Two one.
I know.
Don't keep, get a point.
Yeah, so definitely your team did good, but you gotta work on some mechanic stuff. Like, you can't just be shooting nowhere just because you're lining up a pull, and you gotta work on some positioning stuff, especially on your monkey. Like, you were kind of just leaving your team, putting yourself in risky spots, not letting your team push because you weren't there making space for them, and so that just wasn't ending the best for you. And while this was a win, it was a fine win, it could have been such a cleaner win where, you know, you could have absolutely dominated this instead of just having your DPS kill everyone.